quote from Traveling Music from one of his books. To a 20-year-old struggling musician, the Fountainhead was a revelation, an affirmation, an inspiration. Although I would eventually grow into and largely out of Ayn Rand's orbit, her writing was still a significant stepping stone or way station for me, a black and white starting point along the journey of a more nuanced philosophy and politics. Most of all, it was the notion of individualism that I needed, the idea that what I felt, believed, liked, and wanted was important and valid.
I can remember a time 40 years ago when in many places they were treated like subhumans and sinners, and the cops really were going after them in an unfair, abusive way. So when I say pride, I'm not talking about government coming in and doing anything. I'm simply making a moral statement. It shouldn't be in politics. It's a social change that occurred in America, and a very positive social change that occurred during my lifetime. Now in the 21st century, homosexuals have an entirely different life that is available to them than they did back in the 20th century. So long as we're still overcoming those social biases that people have against homosexuals, I'm all for pride as a moral social concept, not as a political one.
In view of what they hear of the experts, the people cannot be blamed for their ignorance and their hapless confusion. If an average housewife struggles with her incomprehensibly shrinking budget and sees a tycoon in a resplendent limousine, she might well think that just one of his diamond cufflinks would solve all of her problems. She has no way of knowing that if all the personal luxuries of all the tycoons were expropriated, it would not feed her family and millions of other similar families for 1 week, and that the entire country would starve on the first morning of the week to follow. How would she know it if all the voices she hears are telling her we must soak the rich? And this was written in the 70s. This is Miss Rand in the 70s. Brilliance once again.
Bitcoin as a means of circumventing inflation is doomed to failure. It cannot work. Governments will not let it work because people want to give wealth, your wealth, away to the needy. Everybody you know thinks the government ought to pay for Medicare, Social Security, transfer payments of all kind, because they believe in altruism, the morality of sacrificing ability to need.
In California, we have that phenomenon. 350,000 people left last year. And these aren't just rich people, folks. These are middle-income people and people striving to be rich, but they can't because the boot of Gavin Newsom in the California state legislature is on their neck and keeping them from rising. And it's a real phenomenon. They're moving to the South, and as you said, the Sun Belt, where they actually respect property rights.
Your money is the product, in my mind, of your reason, your ability to create, produce, trade with other people. And now government comes along, which is force. It's a necessary force. I'm glad we have government, but what role does government have in manipulating and controlling your wealth, the product of your labor? Places like California, the top tier income tax, I believe, is upwards of 50, 60, 70%. 7 out of 10 days you work for the government. And then the last 3 days of your life you work for yourself. I mean, I don't want to be hyperbolic, but paraphrasing Ms. Rand, isn't it the man who works for the benefit of others is a slave?